Welcome to this episode of Mercy Can't Stop Her. I am your host, Judith Hambia Obatusa, JKO. Women in life's trenches are very familiar with the emotion of anger. They often carry it invisible, buried under years of disappointment, mistreatment, emotional neglect, or feeling unseen. They've been taught to be nice, forgive quickly, don't make it a big deal. And after some time, it becomes something that simmers, like a cauldron of molten rock hidden beneath the quiet exterior of a dormant volcano. But that suppression of anger doesn't erase the fire, it just turns it inward. This week on Mercy Can't Stop Her, we're talking about the word anger, kind that many carry around hidden behind a smile, and words like, it's okay, don't worry about it, or simply silence. Kind of anger that builds quietly in women who have carried too much, given too much, decided to try and forgive and move on because they know that if they allow themselves to erupt, they will lose control and ravage everything around them. Are you familiar with this kind of anger? I remember when I was younger and very quick tempered. You know that free rage of youth? When someone says or does something out of line with you, and before you can even think, your words are out, quick and sharp. And one didn't have the responsibilities of relationships but wanted so bad to learn to be calm. It was easier to say sorry. And then you get older and face life's complications. Get into a relationship, maybe one you prayed for, invested in, sacrificed for, and you give your all and find out too late that you've been deceived. You've become trapped. You're too far gone to find your way back. And you begin to learn about turning the other cheek and proactive or advanced forgiveness. And you look like you've learned to stay calm. But try as you may, you discover that underneath all that goodness, you've been carrying a seething rage. Is this familiar? Kind of anger that sits in your stomach for years, but you're either too afraid to express it or you didn't realize it's been shaping everything you do. It's the reason you're highly irritable and impulsive and drained. And you realize the truth. You've not conquered anger. You've only learned what it costs to express it. That's the kind of anger we're talking about today. So many women are walking around with this anger. It's unspoken anger, not the shouting, table flipping kind. It's the silent kind. The one that shows up as irritability, impatience, or exhaustion. Yeah, you smile, you serve, you stay polite, but inside something is burning. Psychologists call it repressed anger. When emotion is pushed down so deep, it turns inward and starts showing up outward in unhealthy ways. Unspoken anger doesn't disappear. It seeps into your body, the very fabric of your being. It becomes migraines, sleepless nights, resentment, fatigue, overeating, substance abuse, alcoholism. It seeps into your speech and shows up as sarcasm and cynicism. It shows up in your emotions, the emotional withdrawal, depression, and anxiety. Because anger unspoken is not anger erased, it is anger internalized. And spiritually, it's not anger itself that destroys us. It's what happens when we pretend it's not. So, my sister, maybe you're angry. Someone who has betrayed your trust. Maybe you're angry that you've had to carry more than you share. You're married, but you're basically single, raising kids alone, holding your family together, forgiving people who never said sorry, who never apologized, and who continue to offend without remorse. Or maybe deep down, your anger is at yourself. You're angry at yourself for staying too long, for not speaking up, for believing love meant enduring mistreatment. Anger shows up when something important has been violated. It could be our boundary, our dream, your dignity, or even when something you love has been mistreated. But what happens? What happens when anger is not internalized? What happens when anger is redirected to change a situation? Let's look at the story of Wangari Maathai, the Kenyan environmental activist, founder of the Green Belt movement and the first African woman to win a Nobel Peace Prize. I heard about how a story about the hummingbird and the power of community. She once said that her activism began because she was angry about watching her community's land and dignity destroyed by greed. When she returned from her studies in the States, what she saw happening in her community angered her. That anger pushed her to plant trees. Until date, she's planted over 30 million of them. Her anger pushed her to plant hope where despair had grown. You see, my sister, anger can be transformed into purpose, even when our circumstances are unjust and seem hopeless. Let's take a look again at another woman, Alice Wong. Her nonprofit Disability Visibility Project is an online community dedicated to creating, sharing, and amplifying disability media and culture. These words were taken from her website. According to Alice Wong, her advocacy began from the frustration and anger that the world wasn't built for people like her. Instead of letting that anger harden her, make her a cynical person, turned it into fuel, create space for others, for other people who experience what she was experiencing. She redirected it into writing, speaking, and community building. And closer to home, maybe you know a woman who turned her anger into advocacy. If that mom who started a foundation after losing a child, the woman who left a toxic job and began helping others to find their voice, or the domestic violence survivor who now mentors young girls to set boundaries that she once didn't know how to set for herself. So instead of repressive anger, these women turn their anger into what I'll call redemptive anger. An anger that says, an anger that stops asking for permission to feel and starts asking how to heal. An anger that stops living in silence and raises their voice to make a difference. All these women remind me that anger does not have to destroy us. It can direct us, can push us from silence to strength. My sister, it can push you from resentment to reform, from pain to purpose. Because the same fire that destroys is the same one that purifies. Wangari's anger entered forests. Ali's anger built voices, different stories, the same truth. The truth is that when anger is purified by purpose, it becomes a kind of compassion. It says, I love this too much to let it stay broken. That's what mothers feel when they advocate for their children. That's what women feel when they say enough. That's what survivors feel when they choose to speak, not just for themselves, but for those who are still afraid. If we can pause to look at the anger that we carry, we can direct it toward change, towards purpose, towards making a difference. It was anger at how women who in life's hard places are so often judged and blamed instead of supported that made me start Mercy Can't Stop Her. I wanted a space where feelings were validated, where hearing other women's stories reminds you that you are not alone in your experiences, where your wisdom that you've gained over the years in this journey of life is valuable to others. So, my sister, if you've ever felt that slow burn of anger, that simmering rage that's showing up in your reactions and actions, I invite you to reflect with me for a moment. What if we let that anger become a teacher? What if we let it teach us the boundaries that we need, the justice we long for, the healing that we yearn for? What if we let this anger that we feel show us what we need to pay attention to? What if we let this anger, refine us instead of defining us? That's what Wangari and Alice did. They didn't let anger consume them. Instead, they let it convert them. They became activists. It converted them into voices, into movements, into change agents. And you don't need a platform to do that. You just need to decide what your truth is in the situation you found yourself and be honest about it. You can be kind and still say, that hurt. You can be forgiving and still have boundaries. You can be godly and still have emotions. My sister, the truth is that God never asked you to suppress what He designed you to feel. Even Jesus was so angry. He entered the temple and used the whip to whip the traders out because they were turning the Lord's house into a place where they were taking advantage of other people. God, the Bible tells us many times about where God was angry. Anger is an emotion that is God given. So we are not supposed to suppress it. The only thing is, He's asking you to bring it to Him so that He can turn the fire that burned you into light that guides someone else. When you do this, mercy won't stop you. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with another woman who will benefit from it. Do me a favor, subscribe to Mercy Can't Stop Her and leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or any other platform where you listen. Thanks in advance. Our word for next week is comparison. You know, that quiet thief that convinces us that everyone else's story is better than ours. I look forward to unpacking that with you. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.